Now on Sky News Business, your property empire.
Hello, welcome to Your Property Empire. I'm Chris Gray. Managing your tenants is one of the most important parts of the property investing journey, as they're the ones that pay the majority of your mortgage. Now, some landlords choose to do it themselves, some choose the cheapest agent, and others choose the most expensive. So, what is the best choice for you in 2018? Well, joining us on the show tonight is Ruin Pereira, co-founder of Different, and Charles Tarby, chairman and owner of Century 21 Australasia. Ruin, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks, Chris.
Now, you've gone from Silicon Valley to Moonee Valley, which I had to look up in Melbourne. Why the hell would you want to do that and set up a property management business?
Well, we'll probably say Royal Randwick, given we are starting here in Sydney, but I did grow up in Melbourne. And, you know, I've been living in San Francisco for a long time, 8 years. I was working in technology there. And, you know, I'd come back constantly every year. Parents are here. I always wanted to, every time I'd come back here, I always thought to myself, you know, I could really build something here. This is a great place to build a technology-enabled company. I've always wanted to do it, and property management, for me, seems like the ideal place to do it. The inspiration for us really was my parents. They had an investment property for 20 years. You know, and they're regular people. My mum's a bank teller, dad's an accountant, and this is their nest egg. This is their retirement savings, and you know, they were paying sort of 1 month's rent every year when you add up the management and the leasing costs every month for 20 years. And you know, I've looked at this process, and I've looked at a lot of tech business, a lot of sort of process-related businesses, and I really feel like technology can really contribute something here, and so that's what we're trying to build.
Now, I know you and your wife had a background at Uber and Google, so what's different about Different? Because I know a lot of people do whinge and moan about property managers, so what's going to be different about you?
Sure. So, Different provides flat-fee property management. We provide full-service management for $100 a month. You know, I think for both of us, so Mina's background, she ran the product management team at Uber for a long time, from when it was very, very small up to, you know, up until quite recently. And so she knows how to build a growth startup and apply technology to a traditional business. I worked at Google for a long time as well. And we feel like our motto here is we let technology do the things that technology does really, really well. And where technology can't fit in, you absolutely need people. So we've hired agents from places like McGrath and LJ Hooker, and we've focused them on doing the things that only people can do really well.
Now, Charles, I've got a small property management business. You've got a massive one. Do you think is there space? Is there a right time to try and change what has maybe been the same for the last 50 years or so?
Yeah, I think there's definitely room for change. There's no question about that. Some agents are going offshore with a lot of their maintenance work as well. It doesn't really matter how much it costs. That's the thing. If you can get it done within a cost, that's the key issue. Because if you have to employ people, you have to make sure that in terms of paying them, you've got to collect fees to do it. So if the processes can be simplified, and the bottom line of any business has to be there. So you can't just run a business from a social aspect. It's got to be a profitable, growing business. If you can do it for $100 per property, and there's a way of doing it, great. I just think it just needs to be closely looked at, because each state has different legislation, and that's the biggest problem we've found in overcoming that. You go to Perth, you've got to do 4 inspections on a property. So you have to either do that or you have to outsource that. So it's a matter of combining all of those services from each different state legislation and getting it right.
And so, Ruin, is that probably the first question that you get maybe from the sceptics, to say, look, I'd love to do it for half price, but are you actually going to get all the results for that?
No, absolutely. You know, I think that the core way that we look at this is you can't automate everything. You just can't. The key to doing this successfully and doing this well is to be able to seamlessly move between technology and people and know when to apply, when people need to actually solve a problem. People are really good at things like building relationships, negotiating, coming to terms with something, passing on news. If a tree falls on a house, I want someone to look at that problem. But if it's a leaky tap, well, actually, you know what? There's a lot of scheduling, a lot of back and forth, kicking around emails and the like that the tenant doesn't want to deal with, the owner doesn't want to deal with, the property manager certainly doesn't want to deal with. And so we look at those sorts of activities and we automate those activities. It allows us to focus the people on the things that only people can do. And that's how we save money.
So would you be kind of classified as a tech company or a real estate agent, or a bit of a mixture of both?
I think, Chris, what we've tried to do, I want to be classified as a company that does really awesome property management. And I think to do that, you need both of those skill sets. You cannot do this with technology alone. You just can't. It won't work. You need great technology, and so we have folks that have good technology backgrounds. And you also need great real estate people who really have deep real estate knowledge and understand the legislation, like Charles, so accurately points out, and understand sort of how to, there is a certain tacit knowledge that I think only comes from doing this for 10 years, and we respect that, and that's why we hire folks to do that.
Now, Charles, with no disrespect, you've been in the business a long time, so you've got lots of experience. Would you say that there's maybe, is it like the classic 80-20 rule, that 80% of the managements are nice and easy and you can kind of manage them, and you get 20% of the problems and they're absolute headaches?
And that is the case, and then there are certain locations, certain suburbs where the maintenance factor or the attention to detail is a great deal more. So these platforms can work, but again, at the end of the day, they have to be a viable business, and to do that, they've got to charge. Now, if you charge a flat fee and it works, that's great, but there may come a time where you might have to adjust those fees, because there will be more engagement with people. If you look at the legislation that's coming into place in Victoria, the Andrews government, I think it is really piling on more and more legislation. They're even talking about abolishing platforms to negotiate rent online. That's one of the things they've just started to look at introducing, which flies in the face of giving free enterprise an opportunity. So I don't know. Look, it can be done better. You go to Perth, as I was saying, and they'll charge up to 14%.
Yeah, I pay 12% in the UK,
yes.
And they're useless.
Yeah, and you come across to Sydney or in Melbourne, there's discount people that have found a way to do an efficient job. If that's the case, let's bring it to the surface and make it happen.
Yeah. Now, coming from such big companies, especially as tech, are you trying to get this to be absolutely massive? And if so, are people putting in the money? Have you got some big backers out there?
Yeah. So we do want to build a global business from Australia. That's why we're here. That's why I moved back home. That's why we're here. That's what we're trying to do. In terms of backers, so Airtree Ventures, who is the largest VC fund in Australia, they're our lead investor. We were really fortunate. We managed to get I think we're one of the first Australian companies to get seed backing from a Silicon Valley VC. So we have Foundation Capital, who's one of the real stalwart VCs and really gets property.
So they know where Australia is then?
They do. No, and you know what? They actually look at Australia, and I think more people should, as a great test market for the rest of the world. We're the second richest country per capita after Switzerland. People here are willing to take a punt on new services. Uber penetration in Australia is higher in percentage terms than it is in the US. So Aussies are willing to have a go. And so they recognize that. We've also got property investors like Tim Foote from Bell Properties, who's an advisor to our firm and has invested significantly in our business. Because I think that, forward-thinking agents, they understand that, hey, you know what, there is a role for technology to play here. And so that's what we're working on.
And so what are the main goals for the business then?
Honestly, Chris, the only thing that I care about right now is customer happiness. I'm lucky that we've got backers that think long-term, like we think long-term, and we're investing to ensure that, we can build a really viable, great Australian brand. And so the only thing I care about right now is customer happiness. I turned off advertising because we had so many leads coming in that we couldn't service the demand at a level of satisfaction that we wanted to keep. So we said, no, we don't want to grow too fast. We want to make sure that we are handling our Sydney-based leads that are coming to different.com.au effectively, and so we literally turned it off.
Certainly a good problem to have. Well, we'll come back to more about the property management. Let's jump into the numbers, make sure we have time for those.
Yeah, thank you.
What's happening with the clearance numbers, Charles?
Very interesting. They haven't been down that much this week. It's 63.1%, 63.4% last week, so not a great drop. But this time last year was 71.6%. So if you look at the stats overall from year on year, yeah, they're dropping. Sydney came in the lowest I've seen in a long time at 58.7%, and they had 990 auctions. Melbourne, now this one has been up in the 70s, and that came down. They were down in the 67% range, and they had 1,837 auctions. So overall, the clearance rates are definitely down. There's 3 capital cities in Adelaide, Perth and Brisbane that have performed better this week than this time last year. So
and are the last auctions pretty much the 18th? Because have we really got a week
close
to go now?
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't be auctioning my property the week after that. It might be a bit quiet. Might be a little bit quiet.
Wonderful. And what about homes advertised for sale?
Yeah, they've been dropping significantly, as you can well expect, although the stock levels in Sydney are higher, significantly higher than this time last year. Week on week, the stock levels across the country have dropped 2.5%.
And are people actually listing properties these days? Like, is there actually physically new listings coming on?
Yeah, a lot of people are still talking about it, and they're concerned about whether Christmas might be the wrong time. But there are people that do need to sell. There are people being transferred, and they need to get themselves sorted out and organised, and they'll be the people we see.
And then what about rent price movements?
Nothing across the country, like from a national perspective, flat, but some of the capital cities performed very well. Pleased to say Perth was up 0.73% over this time last week. That's the best performing capital city for rents because they've been belted quite heavily. Melbourne came in second at 0.59%, so most of the capital cities did okay, but on an average it was an absolute flat week from a rental perspective.
And then finally the vacancy rates.
Sydney overtook Melbourne for a few weeks. Melbourne's back. It's 0.9% in Melbourne, vacancy rate, which is really quite incredible still. Sydney 0.96% and Perth 7.49%, very respectable. So it gives us a 3.12% vacancy rate on those three as an average. But Perth is the one that's still going very nicely. It's correcting in a lot of areas. So I'm always telling people, have a close look at what's going on there.
Yeah, often there's a lot of people that will be happy that there's something changing around that kind of area. So back onto the property management thing is, in your opinion, I guess given your experience in real estate, when people are trying to find a property manager, what do you think is the most important thing? Because obviously price is one part of it, but not the whole part.
Yeah, sometimes people focus too much on price and they focus too much on the price of the agent, and sometimes that's a real danger zone. I think at the end of the day, you've got to be able to get a property manager to give you some details of some of their existing landlords, get addresses of some of their properties, and go and have a look at how well the property's maintained, and talk to some of the landlords if you can get permission, because I think that's your best advice on whether you should or shouldn't use an agent. And with your business and what you're doing, I don't see it as disruption. Graham Mirabito, ex-CoreLogic CEO, corrected me one day. He said it's constructive evolution, and he's absolutely right, because it's what you're doing we could learn from, as you're learning about our industry today. And I think all industries, once they settle down, when you look at Uber, they've got challenges as well, because people are starting to work out how it best suits the customer, and I think that's the most important thing.
No, and I appreciate that. I think, you know, for us, it's first principles. How do we do this in a really perfect way? And I think that's a combination of great real estate people and tech.
And
that's
technology.
Really,
Yep,
you know, and I think together, working hand in hand,
completely agree.
that's how you solve
Completely
this
agree.
problem.
And from the people that you're seeing coming to you, what are their, I guess, complaints about property managers? So what are they looking for in a new property manager?
You haven't got all night, have you?
No, it's a great point. I mean, and Charles, you know, you bring up a great point. Like, there are some great operators out there. There absolutely are. There are some great traditional agents out there, and, you know, credit to them. But there's also a lot of dissatisfaction. If you look at sort of how, you know, customer satisfaction surveys of the property management industry, the results aren't great, and I think we as an industry need to take a collective sort of check and say, how do we improve that? What I think, there's three things that I think are bringing customers to us and that I think are really driving it. One is the flat fee. I think that a lot of people, and really they ask the question, you know, does an $800 a week property cost twice as much to manage as a $400 a week property? So I have a customer who has a $1,000 a week property and a $2,000 a week property, high-end properties, as you can imagine. And they're not only with the same firm, but they're with the same agent. And, you know, she didn't understand, like, why am I paying this? And I think that resonates with a lot of folks. The second thing I think that a lot of people are valuing in our offering is the transparency. You know, we provide owner portal, everything that the owner wants is there 24/7. Tenants have a great app, so when there's a problem, we can take a video of it, and then that goes to a tradesperson. The tradesperson comes and fixes the problem first time more often because they can see a video of the problem. You know, I think that's valuable. And the third thing, I think, so service, you know, we're 24/7. The third thing, I think, is peace of mind. What we've innovated to do is we've created something called our rent guarantee, which basically means if the rent's 5 days late, you know, we just pay the rent. We also provide landlord insurance for every property, and we pay for it in the first year. And we do, I mean, for me, like, this was actually a very personal thing, Chris. Like, my parents, like I said, when they had this property, you know, they were really worried. Like, what if the tenant missed the rent? What if there was a problem? Property's a great investment, but it's also a very concentrated investment. And for a lot of folks, I mean, 2/3 of negative gearers are earning under $80,000 a year. The tenant stops
you need to get that rent in.
You need to get that rent in. So we want to protect that. You know, we want to help people like my parents.
Sounds good. Well, we'll talk more about the break. Thanks for joining us, Charles. We'll see you again next week.
Thank you.
Now, we're going to take a short break, but we'll be back soon.
La Trobe Financial, judged Money Magazine's best mortgage fund 8 years in a row and returning 5.2% on a 12-month investment. Make your money work harder for you. Invest with La Trobe Financial. Call 138010.
Discover the Shimmer of Secrets new dancing pendants from $575 and a most incredible right-hand ring collection from only $295. Exquisitely irresistible. Secrets.
How many hotels does Trivago compare?
1,000? 100,000? 500,000? 700,000?
Trivago now compares prices from more than 1 million hotels to find your ideal hotel for the best price. Hotel Trivago.
There's something happening at BP stations around the country. It's the new BP Me app, and it lets you pay for fuel from your car with just a few taps. For drivers everywhere, filling up just got easier. Hey, she's sleeping. Disturbing the peace? That's a thing of the past.
Oh, Felix.
BP Me is the new way to pay for fuel. Download the app today.
Life's a big adventure.
Based on the untold true story of Queen Victoria.
She's an Indian. You think that's appropriate?
Judi Dench's dazzling.
I'm Empress of India. What could be more appropriate?
Victoria and Abdul. New to Blu-ray, DVD and digital.
A rental property can be a rewarding investment, but even with great tenants, there'll always be life's unavoidable accidents and uncertainties. Standard building insurance may not cover damage caused by tenants or loss of rent, leaving you out of pocket.
Terry Shear is Australia's leading landlord insurance specialist with landlord insurance from $1 a day to protect your property and rental income.
Call Terry Shear today or go online.
Register today at Elite Singles, where you'll benefit from 100% verified profiles, an extensive personality test and tailored matches in your area. EliteSingles.com.au. Never more ready to fall in love again.
There are rules about what you see on TV. The industry association ASTRA has developed codes of practice covering programming on subscription television channels like this one. To see the codes, visit the ASTRA website at astra.org.au.
It's not easy keeping up with the information overload of the modern media cycle, so Monday to Thursday on Spears, we're here to help. Cutting through the spin, the waffle, the pointless point scoring, focusing on what really matters, what's really going to affect your life.
Australian people want certainty.
I talk to the major players shaping the day's events and have no problem asking the hard questions. When they front up here, they know it's not for an easy ride. Hope you can join us for Spears, only on Sky News Live.
Now, back with Your Property Empire.
Welcome back to Your Property Empire. Joining me on the show tonight is Ruben Pereira, co-founder of Different, and we've just been joined by Tom Panos, the real estate expert at News Corp. So you were talking before the break about $100 fixed fee, the rent guarantee, as well as the insurance. That seems like a hell of a package and something that could be pretty costly. Is it like a kind of a loss leader to get yourself in the market and show how good you are?
Not at all. Not at all, Chris. We think that these are things that everyone should have. Every owner needs to have landlord insurance, so we pay for it in the first year. We subsidise it going forward as well, because we think it's important. The rent guarantee, actually, we can provide that. That's a service that, through standardization and through agreements that we've made, we can provide this service. And at the end of the day, I mean, this is a huge worry for a lot of folks, and so if we can alleviate that worry, then that's good business for us.
Yeah.
And it costs, and by the way, it's free. It's part of the package.
Tom, you're dealing with real estate agents, mainly on the sales side all the time. You're very much about standing out from the crowd. You talk about Seth Godin, kind of purple cow. Again, is this a way agents should go around? Is there plenty of ways to get business these days?
I think it's really interesting because I do think you've got to move away from being the same. You've got to stand out because it's a crowded marketplace. But you've got to stand out and make sure that you're a value-added provider. You've got to show more, do more, give more. So there's no point standing out if you actually don't meet a consumer's needs. And I think that's where products that really hit the spot, being different, but also solving a problem that a client has.
Yeah. Now, you say property management hasn't really changed in the last kind of 50 years. Is now the time for the change?
I think so. And I think so for a couple of different reasons. I think the most important one is when you do things with data, you often get a better outcome. So let's take maintenance as an example. Traditionally, maintenance has been, I think there is certainly value in that personal relationship that property managers have with tradespeople. But at times, what we're learning, and with the way we do maintenance, is that actually the right thing is having the right person for the job. So the way we handle maintenance, so a typical agent will call, the 3 or 4 or 7 tradespeople that they know to get something done. What we're doing is we're trying to find who is the best Miele dishwasher person in Ryde right now. And the way we're doing that is because every maintenance job that we do gets tracked across a whole swathe of performance criteria. Was it fixed the first time? What was the price versus the actual quote? Was the tenant happy? Did the maintenance provider come on time? Did they provide photographs? We're tracking these things, and we're tracking these things at a very nuanced level. So what it allows us to do is provide a real value add to the owner, because the owner knows, what? We've looked at the last 7 people that did Miele dishwashers, and this person has the highest quality score, so they're the person that's getting the job, and that means that they're more likely to fix it because we know that they're good at Miele. And those are the people we build those personal relationships with.
And again, to push this onto the sales side of things, you're very much in terms of the agents getting their assistants involved. They should be doing all the dollar cost productive activities, shouldn't they?
Well, the pilot's not serving drinks on the flight, Chris,
Thank God.
And thank God for that. And the issue is that you've got to work your strengths and you've got to outsource your weakness. And you've got to look at focusing on the high dollar productive activities. And that's how real estate's sort of moving now. I think it's really difficult to provide incredible service without having specialisation and people being able to do various parts of the job. One person can't do everything.
Yep, sounds good. OK, we'll try and jump back if we can, but let's jump to your properties of the week. I'm surprised there's still properties on the market, but let's take us through property 1, Tom.
19 Park Street, Campsie, and this property is going to go to auction this Saturday. 2.2 million to 2.25, or sorry, 2 million to 2.5 is the guide. Public auction. George Vullis, one of the top real estate agents in the Campsie area. 23 years he's been doing it, and the vendors have gone with him. Potential development site, 613 square metres. So you're really talking about the property, the fact that it's a proposed rezoning precinct. So this has got dollars all over it, and that property is going to go to auction on Saturday, and I expect there to be good interest on this property because it's close to the shop station and everything.
And this is probably one of the few properties that you don't need amazing, beautiful pictures of all the interiors and the rest of it.
Now, we need people with big checkbooks. That's what we need on.
And property number 2.
Property number 2, 53 Montague Street in Len Valley in Tassie. Offers over $1 million for this one. A historical, significant residence, 7 bedrooms on 2 titles, only 7 minutes from the CBD in Hobart, and it is part of the Tasmanian Heritage Register. I've got to tell you, Tassie is red hot at the moment. I wasn't here to listen to Charles's numbers, but I've got to tell you, Tasmania has been probably, and Hobart specifically, has been one of the great performers of real estate in Australia 2017.
Yeah, I think SQM Research, Luke Christopher, I think his reports then, he's putting Hobart up there as well.
Yeah.
Now, common question this time of the year is what happens to the real estate market over Christmas? Are the agents still around, and what's going on?
OK, agents that work in auction areas like Sydney and Melbourne traditionally have a break. They've been under the pump, they've been working hard, and you see a lot of these agents sort of start coming back middle of January, even some come after Australia Day. Then you've got markets like the Gold Coast. It is their hottest time of the year. It's all happening. They have lots of auctions. So it depends if you are in a holiday area. For them, it is state of origin, it's big time. But for a lot of the rest of Australia, I'd say that between, late December and early January, real estate agents are having a break, and so are vendors for that matter. But I will say, the amount of buyers that are looking at property online over the holiday period is incredible.
Well, it's the one time that husbands and wives actually get some time to kind of think about things, goals for the new year, and actually look online because they're not working.
Absolutely, and people have got mobile phones, they're sitting on the beach at Noosa, they're sitting at barbecues, they've got time, and what they're doing is they're scrolling. I mean, you can be scrolling with real estate anywhere you are these days, Chris, so it's actually a great time to actually hit the market before everyone else does, because the last thing you want to do is hit the real estate market as a vendor after Australia Day, because you'll be joining queues of thousands doing it.
Exactly. Very, very quickly before we go, any looking at, I guess, mortgages or other services within Different?
You know, Chris, one of the things that I've learned as, you know, working with a lot of startups is you've got to focus on one thing and doing one thing really, really well. I have no interest in going into sales. I think the reason we chose the name Different is because you can't spell different without rent. And so that's where we're focused.
Very, very cool. Thanks for joining us, and good luck with the business. Thanks for joining us as well, Tom. We'll see you again next week. Thanks for joining us at home as well. We're still on the network, and we'll be here next week as well. Until then, I'm Chris Gray. Good night.
Information presented on this program is general in nature. Viewers should seek their own professional advice before purchasing products or services. The producers of this program may receive a fee for commercial arrangements with companies featured in this programming. You're watching Sky News Business, Australia's business channel.